Good evening, everyone. Before I start, if Lazenby can do it, I can do it too. That's more like me. So I usually talk a lot about startups, a lot about hustle, a lot about building companies. But I want to take this opportunity to tell a little more of a personal story that I've never actually told before. And I figured, what better way to do it than in front of 600 of my closest friends? Hope you'll bear with me. Thank you. The story that I want to tell this evening is about why I became an entrepreneur. I've been telling a story for many years that I became an entrepreneur because of passion and inspiration. But the truth is, that's not really the case. The real reason I became an entrepreneur was really because of necessity and desperation. When I was 17 years old, I moved from Florida to Montreal to begin McGill University, and I loved it. My first few weeks of school were fantastic. I had a brand new car, a really cool apartment, and I felt that I had life by the horns. But about 7 weeks into that first semester, I got a phone call from my mother that would change my life forever. There were 3 words: we are broke. We weren't broke in the sense that we had to tighten our belts or reduce our expenses. We were broke in that we had nothing. We lost our house, we lost our bank accounts, and we owed millions to creditors through my father's very, very large and very public bankruptcy. So I was given an ultimatum. I had the choice to either move back down to Florida and live with my parents and figure things out with them, or I can stay in Montreal and fend for myself on my own. I was stubborn, and I was a punk, I still am, and I decided I would do it on my own in Montreal. I tried my hand at normal jobs, like working in a cafe, selling vacations for a travel agency, and as you heard earlier tonight, I even tried DJing on weekends. Became pretty good at that too. But I wasn't able to pay the bills with those jobs. And I certainly wasn't able to help my parents and 2 little sisters, which is something that was really important to me at that time. I had to do something drastic. I asked everyone I knew if they knew of a business I can start with no money and no experience. I think you know how that goes. But a friend of mine was the treasurer of the student council at McGill University, and he advised me that McGill spent about $25,000 per semester on t-shirts and promotional products. Turned out that it was closer to $250,000 a semester. But within a few hours, I bought a very cheap screen printing machine. I found a screen printer that would teach me how to print. And I sourced my t-shirts from a local entrepreneur named Dov Charney, who started a small company at the time called American Apparel. And together, I was ready to go. But there was only one problem. I had no customers. No one was giving me any orders. And the truth is, things went from bad to worse. I booked a meeting with McGill University a few weeks after that and asked them if they can give me a purchase order for one of their future t-shirt contracts. They were pretty happy with their supplier named Gildan, who was a Canadian icon. They were safe, they were secure, and no one got fired by hiring Gildan to manufacture their t-shirts. Through this desperation, I became frustrated. I was sick and tired of not having anything and living between paychecks that were just too modest and meager. And through this desperation, I began to understand what I today deem and identify as hustle. I began calling every single decision maker at McGill University Student Council every single morning at 9:30 in the morning. Maybe that was harassment. I didn't care. I would ask them if there was anything I can do for them, if there was any orders I can take, no matter how small or how large. And anytime I heard of an RFP being published, I made sure I was the first one that showed up at their door. Not with a paper RFP response, but with printed t-shirts that had the logos that they were asking for in their RFP. On every proposal that I ever listed, I wrote my phone number and said that Harley would be available for customer service 24/7. And because I had nothing to lose, that first quote that I gave them, I provided it at cost. Take that, Gildan. And guess what happened? I got my first t-shirt order. I was 18 years old, and McGill gave me an order for 200 t-shirts. That changed everything for me. I made sure to deliver those t-shirts 3 days early, and I even brought an extra 20 units just in case. I called them the day after, and I wanted to make sure they were happy with their order. At this point, they probably thought I was nuts. I didn't care. But it worked. I spent the next 3 years of my undergrad not studying, but building my humble t-shirt company into the business that supplied more than 50 universities across Canada, including those in town here, with all their promotional apparel. And the truth is, it never got easier. While 50 universities said yes, the other 50 kept saying no to me over and over again. I learned more from that experience than I have in anything else in my entire life. Last month, I turned 30 years old, and I started to reflect on my life as an entrepreneur for the last 13 years. What I keep coming back to, in terms of the lessons that I learned, is that many of us have a great idea, but it's those of us that execute and hustle that ultimately make it happen. I've had to become really comfortable with being uncomfortable. I've had to accept that rejection will happen 10 times more than getting a yes. I've had to sit with the idea that most people don't want what I'm selling. And I've had to compete with those that have more capital, more resources, more connections than I do, and still figure out a way to beat them. Ultimately, I had to learn how to hustle. We all come to entrepreneurship for different reasons. Some for interest and passion, others for desperation. My reason may not be as glamorous as others. But if you have the audacity and the drive to build something great, there is nothing in the world like the feeling of building a lasting business. I'm humbled right now to be standing in front of this group of 600. You are our city's hackers, you're our city's hustlers, and you're our city's thought leaders. And while we might not say it often to each other, having this incredible local support system here in Ottawa has been one of Shopify's and one of my competitive advantages. And I thank you all for that. Thank you so much.